Have you ever moved house, moved schools, or even countries in your life? In my binge watching of Netflix throughout the pandemic, I noticed that there is such a trope with characters that move around a lot. Say, a kid that has a parent who needs to move because of their job, or maybe because somebody in the family has some personal issues, which makes it really hard for them to fit in. And I thought I would explore what exactly the effects are in real life when a kid constantly moves throughout their childhood. As always, you can find my sources in the description.
It's building on my mind.
Effects as a kid. Moving houses can be a significant and stressful life event at any age, but this is especially true for younger people as they are more vulnerable to having negative mental health effects, particularly those who are more introverted, anxious, or neurotic. Some studies have found that moving 2 or more times before turning 2 years old can have an association with being more withdrawn or depressed by the time you turn 9. For a child in kindergarten, say from 3 to 7 years old, it can limit the social emotional functioning. These are skills that can be developed to help connect with others in managing our emotions, building healthy relationships, and feeling empathy. With every additional move, there can be a small decline in social skills, emotional and behavioural problems, and there are some patterns of lower life satisfaction and psychological well-being too. For those who move house between the age of, say, 7 and 13, cognitive function can be affected, which includes perception, memory, paying attention, and making decisions. Teenagers definitely have it really tough because they have the added stress of having to cope with their bodies going through all these changes and developing, whilst having to deal with forming social connections, focusing at school, and trying to fit in. Some sources even seem to claim that frequently moving teens may turn to smoking, drinking, and attempted suicides more, but I'm not 100% sure what research they have to back this up. If the relocation also means changing schools, this can have unique effects in itself, such as some people finding it hard to settle into their new environments. They might not develop as much of a sense of belonging because their established friendships and other types of relationships might be disrupted. As well as this, there are effects on confidence and self-esteem too. Generally speaking, all of these effects are more prevalent for school movers compared to those who just move house but stay in the same school environment. But these patterns will still show in both groups regardless. That being said though, the increase in these traits are relatively small and of course don't happen to everybody. In fact, whilst some may believe that moving environments can be negative on your overall grades and academics at school, it has been shown that some children do tend to bounce back from any negative academic impacts within a few years. I think it's also really important to note that the effects can be more or less severe depending on the reason for the move. For example, if a family is going through a divorce or having financial issues, it might be difficult to find a supportive environment at home, adding further to one's personal struggles. Effects as an adult. If you're relocating a lot as a child, this can carry long-term effects too. There is much more limited research available on this, but there are some studies that do seem to show a lower quality of life, lower life satisfaction, and poorer well-being in adulthood. As I mentioned before, these issues tend to happen more frequently amongst introverted, anxious, and neurotic personalities. This is probably because they've had less opportunities to form good quality and fulfilling social relationships long term. Some cases even find that people who are used to moving often are more likely to leave relationships and not have so much attachment to physical possessions. Fortunately, there are also positive effects, such as some people having stronger memories, developing improved social skills, and regulating their well-being better too. Again, this will all vary from person to person, and I really wish I could elaborate more on positive effects and just the general effects in adulthood, but there is such limited, reliable research available to me, unfortunately. Effects on other people. The effects of moving house aren't just limited to the people doing the actual moving. When people are left behind, so to speak, and have their close friends moving away, This can be heartbreaking for both parties. It can leave people with increased levels of stress as they anticipate losing a close friend, as well as feeling upset and anxious. Students might even lose attention and focus in school, becoming inattentive, losing sleep, or even acting out. Luckily, with all the modern technology available, there are various ways we can try and lessen the effects, which I'll cover in the next section. How to reduce the effects. Of course, many parents will consider the pros and cons of moving and how this might affect their child, but unfortunately, some circumstances might mean that they have to move regardless of whether they think it's the best choice. Being empathetic, patient and understanding of your child's feelings can be really reassuring, and hopefully they'll be able to understand that you are on their side and that you're there for them. It's also really helpful to provide them with means to keep in touch with their old friends that they've made, say using their phone numbers and having websites online so they can still feel these connections in their life. And if it's convenient, you could even organise to go and visit their old friends, which can have a really positive impact. Schools can definitely have a huge influence on children too. After all, it's where they spend a significant portion of their waking life. Teachers can make the effort of checking in with a pupil to see how they're coping, both academically and with their well-being, and occasionally keeping an eye out for how well they're socialising with their classmates. This can help form a great support network for both the students and the parents. As well as this, lots of people nowadays are maintaining and forming connections with people online, as I mentioned before. So perhaps having PSHE lessons at school that help highlight the potential dangers whilst also recognising that this is an integral part of many people's lives. These PSHE lessons could also cover useful emotional and social skills right from the early years of development to help prepare students for coping with change, recognising and managing their feelings, and developing problem-solving abilities. It might also encourage students to be more welcoming to their new classmates and having empathy for the struggles that other people might be going through. Trying to encourage students to join in clubs and activities outside of school hours can be really helpful as well. Maybe they have an interest in sports or music or theatre. There's so many options available, and these groups can be an amazing way to make new friends and interact with local people that have similar interests. This isn't just limited to children though. Teenagers and adults can join in church groups, volunteering places, and various other types of things to help them get to know other people. Thank you for making it to the end of this video. Moving to a new place can have its challenges, but there are also so many new opportunities that can come with it too. When I was younger, we moved houses every couple of years or so, and I remember when my parents first told me that we would be moving away to a place that I'd never heard of and that I'd have to change schools. I had such a huge tantrum on the sofa and refused to ever get up, in the hopes that this meant that we didn't need to move house anymore. I know how difficult it can be to move to a new area, but at the same time, if we hadn't moved, I wouldn't have met so many of the amazing people in my life right now. That's all I have to say for now. I hope it helped build on your mind.
Thanks for watching this channel, it's building on my mind. Check out my other videos, but first hit the bell and comment, like, subscribe. Please, it really helps with you.